And that man there, who you can see faded in the background, is who today's show is centered around. This is a Jimmy Murphy special on All for United, and I couldn't stand here or in my kitchen tonight on this Monday evening, we're recording it a week in advance, and tell you all about the great man, the legend, and why we're sat here talking about him this evening. I had to get some guys on with me to chat a little bit more about Jimmy Murphy in more detail. First of all, introducing Patrick Burns, who's the chairman of the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation. Patrick, thank you for coming on, mate.
Evening, Ben. Thank you.
It's good to have you with me. I can't wait to pick your brains. Also, we've got Brian Molly. He's massively involved in the campaign to get Jimmy Murphy recognition in and around Old Trafford today. Brian, thank you for jumping on with me tonight, mate.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you for inviting us.
And who better to get the lowdown on the man, the legend, than his grandson, Jimmy Murphy's grandson, Paul Murphy's on with us as well. Paul, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us this evening.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here, and I can't wait, as a young United fan, to learn out more, or to learn a little bit more about Jimmy Murphy and about what you guys are doing to spur up that recognition for him, because I think it's important. It's a massive part of our history, and I think for those out there who don't know why he is, this is a great opportunity to take a moment to learn and to appreciate such an iconic figure of yesteryear, so to speak. But let's not forget that those iconic figures don't have to be of yesteryear. We can bring them into today and make sure that we're honouring them as well. And I think that's the best place to start, actually. Brian, you've been involved in a few different campaigns to get Jimmy Murphy recognition in and around Old Trafford. So do you want to talk to me a little bit about, before we talk about the man, a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing through the years?
Well, like Pat, I'm a founder member of the MMMF, and before I joined the MMMF, I started this campaign where I would love the stand that I sit on at Old Trafford, K stand, or the East stand as it's called now, to be recognised under Jimmy Murphy's name, because we have various stands: Sir Alex Ferguson, Sir Bobby Charlton. I know we've got a centre at Carrington training with Jimmy's name on it. And to be honest, nobody very rarely goes to Carrington of any sort of significance regarding fans or television. So basically, I looked at that building and I thought, it's hidden away. Nobody sees it. Nobody recognises this man. It's a name on a building at a training ground, miles from the club, in the countryside. And I thought, for what this man has done for this football club, if Sir Bobby Charlton's name on a stand, if Sir Alex Ferguson's name's on the stand, without this man, Jimmy Murphy, those two names would not be on them stands. In fact, we might not even have a football stadium there.
Wow.
For what Jimmy Murphy, he did for this football club, and kept it going, kept the flag flying.
It's powerful sentiments like that, isn't it, Pat, why it's important. They say nowadays statues are given away way too easily, but I tell you what, it's sentiments like that as to why we need to find a way to recognise Jimmy Murphy and what he done at Manchester United, as Brian's just said there.
Absolutely, and Molly's not wrong. I mean, it's important for your viewers to know we're all from the Manchester Munich Memorial Foundation, but we are not doing this alone. That's an important point to make. And there is an imbalance. And if you think about the confines of the stadium, the actual complex, we've got statues to Sir Alex, to Sir Matt. We've got the Holy Trinity. Dennis Law's got a separate statue. We've got Sir Matt Busby Way. The only thing that I'm aware of for Jimmy Murphy in Old Trafford is a bust in the museum, which you have to pay to go in and see. So one thing we want to do is to address this imbalance. And we are going back to past eras, past decades. But Molly's absolutely right. There is a football club here that's grown into being the biggest football club in the world. And a lot of your fans will know about Sir Alex, but maybe not beforehand. Certainly not what Sir Matt did and went through. and the man who was right there with him, the man who, in our darkest hours and our darkest days and weeks when we were ripped into bits, and the board of Manchester United, when Jimmy finally came back from Munich with Bill Fouts and Harry Gregg, God rest them both, the board were talking about folding, ending it, and Jimmy Murphy said, no, over my dead body, I'll keep this flag flying. This is a man who...
Oh, we've got a phone call. I hope that was important.
we were resurrected from the ashes. And actually, the 1958 Cup final, which was 3 months after Munich, the players actually had a Phoenix badge on their shirt, the Phoenix rising from the ashes. And this is a man who didn't go to Munich, but he should have. And he brought those players up. Matt Busby first met Sir Jimmy Murphy during World War II, where Jimmy Murphy was lecturing soldiers on football, and Matt Busby was a soldier. And when he left the army and got into a career in football and then into management, he recruited Jimmy Murphy to be his coach. That's how impressed he was with him. And the Busby Babes, they call the Busby Babes, but it was Jimmy Murphy and his ethos of bringing young players through, which permeates right through the generations. If I tell you that one of his last actions as a coach was in the 1970s when we were revived under Tommy Docherty. It was Jimmy Murphy who recognised Gordon Hill and Steve Coppell and recommended them to Tommy Docherty to come and become young, fast attacking wingers. And Molly will tell you what a great team that was. After 58, when we were crushed, he brought us back together. And 10 years later, with Sir Matt, they climbed that pinnacle and won the European Cup. The first English team, a year after Celtic did it, admittedly, so not the first British, but the first English team to do it because they were pioneers.
Yeah.
And that's what sticks in the throats of many, many, many football people in this country, that it was Manchester United who did it first and Manchester United who did it best.
I can't wait to jump into more about his time at United and exactly what he'd done. But Paul, just quickly...
I'll just touch on the campaign then. So we know we can't do it alone.
Yeah.
I put together a consortium of associations, trusted, respected groups like ours, made an approach to all the chairmen and formed a coalition and wrote to the club and said, we would like some recognition for this great man, this man's grandfather. We would like some recognition at Old Trafford. Yes, we know there's a Young Player of the Year award. Yes, there's a building at Carrington. Yes, there's a bust in the museum. But there's nothing public. There's an imbalance to redress. And all credit to the club. They are absolutely non-adversarial. They've taken this proposal. I've actually got a copy of it here on my office desk. And have decided, and this is quite interesting, this, because they're going to set up a legacy and heritage committee. Never been done before. Much as we've put together a coalition of groups, that's never been done before. United fans are quite, they're quite insular when it comes to their own little piece of the jigsaw. But we've formed this partnership of 6, made this approach to United, and they've taken it on board so well that they're setting up a legacy committee so that they can work out the person we're talking about, what is their history, what legacy did they leave with the club, how valued was that, and therefore, what's the framework for translating that into some form of recognition? And for us, everything's on the table. We've asked, can we have a stand? We've spoken about a statue. But basically, everything is up for discussion. Now, they're treating this as a priority case, so much so that when the chairman of the legacy committee, who I've been talking to, when they first said this will be one of the first cases they hear, and rightly so, because whoever you speak about Manchester United and the great people we've had, there's none greater than Jimmy Murphy, who remains completely unrecognised at our spiritual home. So that's where we're coming from.
There's some fantastic work going in by you guys in the club for sure. And I think it's amazing you also lifting the lid there on the legacy committee. I think that just goes to show actually a different side to the club, maybe to some people, that also that they do want to they do want to honour, you know, the legends within the club, and they do want to find ways to make sure that we can do so in the right fashion, I suppose is the sense.
And we're all guys, and for us, Jimmy and Harry Gregg, God rest him, they are our heroes, they're our legends. But like I've been saying to everybody, there are families behind this.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have put this coalition together and made this approach without first. I mean, I know a few members of the Murphy family, but Paul actually sits on our committee as well. So for the first time, we got the family saying, yeah, we could unite behind this approach to the football club. And I think now would be a really good time to bring in that young man and see what he's got to say about it.
I mean, Paul, from what I'm getting from Brian and from Molly, sorry, and from Pat, is that he was a courageous man and he was really well respected by those around him, extremely well respected, which just goes to show the kind of person that your grandfather was. I mean, I know he passed away, was it 1989? So it's some time ago, but you're hearing Molly, you're hearing Pat talking about your grandfather here. I mean, A, how proud are you? But also B, does this sort of sum up him as a man? I'd love to learn a little bit more about Jimmy Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, my dad wrote. We found out about Molly's campaign a few years ago, and people from around the world showing their love for him, and my dad just turned around to me and said, "It was just the bloke that made me toast in the morning." You know, it's my dad and these people showing the love and support for Grandad. It really is phenomenal, and I've been asked many times. It blows you away, and words can't describe how you actually feel about it, because he was just a dad and a granddad. Dad wrote a passage not long ago that he lived his life like he taught football, simple and basic. Didn't want the highlight, didn't want praise. The love for the club, the life obviously with that, never win. But his other part was Manchester United, and he had offers from Brazil, he had offers from Juventus, Arsenal, and he just stayed loyal to the club. And people forget that with the Munich crash, Grandad had these players from '52, so he brought them as a schoolboy, Bobby Charlton and Duncan Edwards. So these was he called them his golden apples. And he was managing Wales on the night of the crash, and to come back to that news that 7 of the players have died and the rest are seriously injured, barring 2 or 3, it must have broke his heart. And people forget that he had these kids from an early age, and then obviously he went to Munich, visited his friend Matt, who was given the last rites 3 times. And while his best friend had died, and he went to see Duncan Edwards what time kick-off on Saturday dinner. This colossus in his bed, broken bone. He described him as a broken bone colossus. What time's kick-off? All he thought about was playing football, and obviously 2 weeks later he went. You know, he must have just been so devastated. He promised Matt that he'd keep the flag flying, and like Pat mentioned on before, he went back to the board and they wanted to close down, and he said, "No, it can be done. You know, we've done it before, we'll do it again, and we'll carry on." And dragged the team from the youth and bought signings, and went to the FA Cup final the same year, and 10 years later won the European Cup. So it was with a broken heart. Surely, you know, the man must have been broke. Dad said he spent most of the time at Old Trafford, didn't really see the family, just to try and rebuild this team. And it'd be nice to have some sort of recognition, because I mentioned in another programme a few weeks ago that you will stand outside Old Trafford and the fans that come and go, and probably 70% of people wouldn't know who Jimmy Murphy was. I just think that's a bit of a travesty, really. Molly mentioned it before, that you have certain people don't know Carrington.
Oh, Paul, we're losing you slightly there, mate. Sorry, you're just cutting out slightly there. You've slightly frozen. I think it's a bit of a connection issue. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. Oh, no, we've got you back. Do you want to carry on where you got? We last heard Carrington was the last word we heard from you.
Yeah, and I think Molly picked on it before, that they have certain things that building named after the media centre, Carrington. You have the bust in the museum, but people don't really see that. And I think you picked up, probably 70% of fans wouldn't know who Jimmy Murphy was. And I think what he went through after Munich and rebuilt the whole team, there should be some sort of recognition just for the all younger generations coming through that would never forget him. Because I don't think we should be forgot, because it was a shining beacon of light in our darkest hours, and people can't forget that.
Can I quickly ask Paul, just a quick, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I mean, maybe there is something out there which says it, so maybe I'm asking a really dumb question here, but just off the back of what you've just said, where did his love and his loyalty for Manchester United come from?
That's a good question. One that I'd probably have to ask Dad, but I think obviously Matt met him in the war, and I think he was a Brummie anyway, so he played for West Brom. He was obviously a Welsh fella, but played for West Brom, obviously went to war, and I think Matt, he'd be great friends with Matt. We went to Old Trafford together, so it probably just stemmed from there. Just meeting Matt Busby, and probably because I think there's a romance about the place anyway. I think many people have said it, and maybe I think he just fell in love with the place, and him and Matt had a great relationship, real good friends, and I think he probably just stemmed from there, and that's
yeah. No, that's fair enough. Molly, let me come over to you quickly. I just want to ask, and I always find it interesting when iconic figures, when we think back to the first time we heard their names. Can you remember the first time that you heard about Jimmy Murphy? Can you remember the first time that he stood out to you? Was it early enough for his West Brom days, would it have been, or was it a bit later on than that?
No, it's a bit later on when he was with the Reds. I started going in 1964, and that's when he became known to me, obviously along with Sir Matt. But that's one of the things that I wouldn't say it irritates me or upsets me, but I find this is part of the recognition that he never got in those days. It was all Sir Matt this, Sir Matt that, and no disrespect, God rest his soul. And Jimmy was never mentioned enough as far as I was concerned. At the end of the day, as assistant manager, and it was through it. I mean, Duncan Edwards adored the ground he walked on. Bobby Charlton the same. But he I know he's a shy man, and he wasn't one for the limelight. But as I say, he was never, I don't think, recognised enough for the amount of work and passion and love that he has and had for our fantastic football club.
Which we are addressing now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking. I looked earlier on, and I've got some notes up here, which I was going to send over an email to you guys to fact check, because you never know what to believe on Wikipedia when you're looking through bits and pieces and you're trying to learn about these iconic figures. But I think it speaks volumes, the different roles he had at Manchester United, from that moment that he took over temporary charge in 58 all the way through to 89, when was the year that he unfortunately passed away. I mean, he was everything from with the reserve team through to a coach, assistant manager, temporary in charge, and
scouting was part of his remit as well. There's not much he didn't do at the club, and that's where I think it falls down the recognition he's never been given.
So if when I first recognised him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Pat, go on. When did you first recognise him? And are there any players that come to mind? Because clearly he was a pioneer, and you've mentioned it before about Gordon Hill when it comes to him investing in our youth.
I mean, you can talk about Georgie, you can talk about Bobby, Dennis, Duncan, all those players. But he first came to my my sort of attention. The first match I was ever allowed to stay up late to watch was the 1968 European Cup final in black and white. And the reason I mention it is because at the final whistle, when United were delirious, having reached the Holy Grail, you will not see Jimmy Murphy in any of those pictures because he just wasn't there, because he just walked off because he couldn't handle it. He didn't want to be in the limelight. He was never one for pushing himself forward. You know, he really was a very shy and guarded man. And at the point where, if you think about losing all those people that were so dear to you and pulling yourself up out of the depths of despair to reach the pinnacle of your chosen career, at that very moment, you can't be part of the enjoyment. You have to. He just wanted just to go and reflect on every. I would guess so, and he stayed with the club, and that must have been hard as well because 5 years after that, we're getting relegated. Well, 5 and a bit years after that, we're getting relegated. That team has fallen apart. It's tried so hard to come back from Munich, and it succeeded. And for me, that's one of the things that sort of contributed to the decline of Georgie Best, because all those other players had given everything, and Georgie wanted more and more and more, and that team fell apart. And still, Jimmy's there. Still, he was assistant manager till 1971. I remember him walking out Old Trafford in 1970 with Samat, the first time I saw him in real life, and he stayed as a chief scout after that, working with future managers, O'Farrell, Doherty. I don't know if he was a scout under Sexton, but he was still looking to unearth talent. And you bring us forward now, and we've gone through the class of '92, and we've now got all these, and it's been our lifeblood, you know, a conveyor belt of homegrown talent. And when I see some of the things on social media about how we're not spending 120 million on so-and-so, it's not, for the likes of me, and I dare say for the likes of Molly, that's alien to us. You know, for us, our DNA, our core DNA is about bringing our people through. And that came from Jimmy Murphy and Sir Matt Busby, and was carried forward by subsequent managers, mainly Ferguson. And you can see Solskjaer trying to do the same now. There's no two ways about it. So
yeah,
that's that important to us.
I'm going to come back over to you in a second, Paul, because I've got a question on it for you. But just quickly, Molly, reflecting on that, can you see that sort of enriched DNA that Jimmy Murphy helped install into our club those many years ago today? Can you still see that? Can you still see that in our lifeblood? Or are you worried that that's sort of potentially fading away a little bit, and that's why we need to sort of bring up the reminders of what Jimmy Murphy done at Manchester United and why that's important to our culture and our club?
Oh yeah, definitely. Whether the DNA is still there to the extent that it was under Jimmy and Sir Matt, I don't really think so, to be honest. But having said that, the club are now, as Pat has already stated, the club are now recognising how important these past icons were, and they're sort of coming round to our way of thinking now more than ever. And I send all the accolades in the world to them for doing that. The way Pat, as I say, has rounded up these 6 organisations to present this case to the club, and the club, fair play, they're actually listening to us, speaking to us, and are fully committed to going ahead to reinvent the DNA of the club to what it was many, many years ago. But this will only be done for the younger people that, without the likes of Jimmy Murphy and Sir Matt and those, they won't be walking down Warwick Road to come and see our beloved club anymore. So it's very, very, very important that some recognition of some description, whatever it may be, needs to be sorted for our future generations, our future young'uns that will look back at our history and take our history with them for their generations to come.
And it's so important players like Rashford, Greenwood, the players coming through the ranks now go on and achieve and strive to achieve as well and have the passion by those guys succeeding and those guys doing well.
Patrice Evra, he stated, Patrice Evra, when he come, and he still says it to this day, that when he came to Old Trafford, he went in and looked at the DNA, looked at the history, learnt all about the history, and it overwhelmed him. And to this day, this club is still in his heart, probably more than most people. And I think this is what the younger generation, both fans and players, need to look at this and back situations like this where we recognise our fallen heroes.
But let me say, what they're doing is creating a framework, and this is really going to be a test case, I feel, where fans, organisations, former players are part of our collective, one of the 6 organisations. There's us, there's the former players, Must, our supporters trust, Duncan Edwards Foundation, United's Big Lily, the Red Army. Those are the 6. We're helping to put a framework together which, if it goes well, it sets the template for future. So nowadays, you know, fans who are younger than us, their heroes are Brian Robson, Roy Keane, Eric Cantona, Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney. Who's to say somebody won't make an application to the club to say, what about recognition for this person? Once they've built the framework for how legacy translates into recognition, based on, we hope, on this test case, it's there for other players, for the players of today and the fans of today. In 15, 20 years' time, we'll be petitioning the club to say, Marcus Rashford, he stopped millions of kids from starving during the year of COVID, and he's played for England for, you can see, can't you, how current stars will be future heroes and legends. And that's what it's all about, making sure that we can not forget the past, but we can use it and learn from it and make sure that it carries on into future generations. It's really what our foundation is all about when it comes to the Busby Babes.
Paul, I think every family, when they're sat having a roast or sat having a dinner, comes up and starts having some of those dining table dinner stories, and we all hear some. I mean, look, this is the first time we've spoken. I don't know if you've got any family anecdotes and little stories that you reflect on and you think of straight away when you think of your grandfather, you think of Jimmy Murphy. Is there anything you can share with us this evening about himself or him at United with a player or a fellow manager that that we?
Do you know what, Ben? Am I still there?
Yeah, we're still here. Yeah.
Hello. Sorry. To us, it was Grandad, and you know, we were sort of 17, 18 when he sadly died, and we didn't know. We knew he worked at Old Trafford, but we didn't really know to what extent. So we never really spoke about football. And I wish I could turn back time and ask him many things. But I remember there was a story, and when he was scouting, his good friend Harry McShane used to drive him around, which is Ian McShane's father, the actor. And one particular day, Ian McShane was over from America, and Harry said, "I've got a surprise for you. Ian's coming. He's going to pick us up in his role, and we're going to go and watch this kid at Leyton Orient or wherever it was." So Ian McShane drove them there, and they sat in the stands, and the game hadn't even kicked off. He was just warming up on the pitch, and he took one look at this guy, and he went, and Ian McShane went for a coffee, and as he was walking up the stairs, Grandad turned to Harry and went, "He's not good enough to go in." And the game hadn't even started, and Ian McShane went, "I've just got 3 coffees," anyway, he left, which was one of the stories. But if I could just read you a quote from Collie Webster, about, we talk about the sort of DNA in the players at Old Trafford at the moment. I think you've got to have a good manager behind you. A lot of players that Jimmy made us feel 10 foot tall. And this Colin Webster, if I could just read this quote, he said that Jimmy was a workaholic and never seemed to get tired. The thing I admired most about him was the way he could motivate players. By the end of his team talk, he wanted to run through a brick wall for him. A hard taskmaster and a wonderful motivator. If Murphy hadn't been at Old Trafford, the Busby Babe would never have existed. Murphy brought at least 80% of them. He camped outside homes. They used to say families would make their boys time for United just to get rid of him. Edwards, Taylor, Coleman, Pegg, Jones were all Murphy's boys. And what he achieved after Munich was fantastic. I don't think Busby could have done it. Many others couldn't have done it. Murphy was a one-off. And that was Colin Webster. And I think if you have someone in that dressing room that could make you feel 10 foot tall, you were 60% there before the game had even started. I just think that's what it needs now. But that's Colin Webster.
Cool. It sounds like he was he loved winning. He loved football and he loved winning, and that's why he inspired so many young players to become great, because he wanted to see them reach their potential.
Mm-hmm. So you just broke up a bit there, Ben. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Paul. I said it sounds like although he didn't like the limelight, it sounded like he loved winning. He loved football, and he'd do anything to help anybody on that football pitch. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said he'd make bad players look good. Just to go out and he was just a really good man. And I remember just a quick one as well. We were in the pub a couple last year. And, we were introduced to this chap, and he said, "It's Jimmy Murphy's grandson," and my dad was with his son. And he said, "I'll never forget my granddad working on the Stretford End when it was being rebuilt after the war." And he said it was a freezing cold February. And he said, "We're all working away doing the wet welding for on the Stretford End." And this chap walked across the pitch with a bottle of whiskey for them all. And that was, it wasn't, he just had a good heart. Really genuine, simple guy that didn't want the limelight. And we were talking, if he was here now, we try to do for him. He would have been twisting in his grave now. I think it needs to be done. So it was a great man and a lovely grandfather. And like I say, it wasn't until the internet. Dad never spoke about it.
And he also run the Welsh team. People forget as that, don't they?
Well, and I was going to say,
he did.
A little known player called Pele knocked him out of the World Cup, didn't he? God, he weren't going to have a decent career.
Yeah.
Well,
the quarterfinals.
Why do you think?
But I think John Charles got injured in the game prior, and they said if John Charles had been fit against Brazil, Wales could have gone on and won the World Cup. He loved John Charles massively, and and he said it was Pele's goal, and John Charles wasn't playing; he was injured. But he said if he'd have played, they could have won the World Cup. So, but that's another story. But yeah, he was a great man, and like I say, a very humble man. And I remember David Tennant played him in a United film, and he came to my dad's, David Tennant, just to get a lowdown on Grandad character. And my dad just said, Grandad, quite a humble.
I was going to say, did David Tennant make a good Jimmy Murphy, Paul?
Yeah, he did. He did okay, did he? I know you've probably seen the film.
Better than Dennis Steele.
But yeah, it was a good film. He did really well, and he was really interested in the story, David. And when he came, he was looking at photographs and stuff, and sharing stories with him. Really interested in the whole. And it was a story that had to be told as well, because it is someone didn't believe it, they thought it was a Hollywood blockbuster, but it was actually a true event, and
See what I
you know, tragic loss for a team that's taken over the world.
Yeah.
What I find remarkable.
I'm just losing.
Yeah. What I find remarkable, Ben, is that having not travelled to Munich and then hearing the news and then having to go over and witnessing what he witnessed, and Harry Gregg, very, very dear to us. He told us this lovely story that Jimmy and Harry and Bill Fouts had been at the hospital to try and lift the spirits of the survivors without really letting them know that, you know, 7 players and 3 club officials had actually passed away. And when they got back to the hotel, Harry Gregg had gone up in the lift to the top floor. I've actually been in this hotel to the very room where they all stayed. And Harry Gregg told me that as he got out of the lift on the 7th floor, he just heard sobbing. And he went round the corner, and there, sat on the stairwell, was Jimmy Murphy, breaking his heart. And the pair of them, completely broken men. And yet, within 2 weeks, they're back on the pitch at Old Trafford, beating Sheffield Wednesday. Now, that is, if you think what Harry went through as well, and Jimmy in Munich, that's the mark of the men. That's the calibre of Jimmy Murphy there in a nutshell. To actually have the stones, the balls to get up from that and say, nah, this football club's not dying, not whilst I'm here. That's why we are Manchester United. It really is, in a nutshell.
He definitely wouldn't just be sitting there right now, would he? Tell you.
No.
He wouldn't.
And really, I would say to all young United fans, you know, just do a little bit. It doesn't take much. Just do a little bit of Googling, a bit of research, learn about Sir Matt and Jimmy and the Babes, what they went through, and then the resurrection from and up to winning the European Cup. That's who we are. That's why we are different to every other football club in this country and in this world, barring Torino, who've also lost a team through an airplane crash. That's why we're different. Not saying we're better. That's why we're different.
Pat, there's some great sentiments from you there. Muddy, let me come over to you one final time. Have you got any final memories you want to share with us, with our viewers of Jimmy Murphy?
Well, really, as I say, what a man for what he did for our club, and also, as I said earlier, running Wales as well. That just shows you the stature of the man. And I've probably repeated it so many times. Without this man, we wouldn't be having this conversation this evening. There wouldn't be a Warwick Road to walk down. There wouldn't be a football stadium there, probably. In fact, MUFC might not be on this planet ever without the help and dedication and love that this man gave to Manchester United Football Club.
Yeah, 100%. And Paul, just quickly, one final word from you, please. You're obviously your granddad is featured in the feature film. Was it BBC Two? Which Tennant was in? It was called Manchester United, wasn't it? I think it was called United, which I think people can go and have a watch. But also, in terms of the family, if people out there wanting to read more about Jimmy Murphy's story, I know in the past you've given permission for a couple of different biographies as well. Isn't Wayne Barton's book, was it Barton's book as well, is out there too, and anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm truly honoured to know these two the 3 of you. You know, that you're doing this for Grandad. You know, it's for the family. It's a real honour to know you guys, and just I'm lost for words as to why people would do this. You know, I understand what he did, but it's such heartfelt thanks to everyone involved. You know, and if I could just, before we go, if we could just read out something that Grandad quoted in the February of 1958. I knew these lads. I found them. I nurtured them. I was with them morning, noon, and night.
mud and rain, gales and snow, the sun and the wind. They let me mould them from the ground up. They repaid me and they repaid this club with their skills, with their passion, and now with their lives. It's not just about honouring their memory. It's about showing who we are to the world, showing we will not be bowed by tragedy. How we are in the future will be founded on how we behave today. Jimmy Murphy, February 1958.
It's Paul. This must be absolutely good. Like, just learning from you and speaking to everyone today, this must be absolutely surreal for you. You go back to, you know, during your teenage years, your younger years, when you were sat at a table and obviously you knew him as Grandad and you didn't know exactly what he had done or what he was doing at United like you do now. And then you sit around and you hear everyone talking about him like he's talking about him. And even for me, who's someone who knows a bit of Manchester United history, obviously I've watched everything there is on the Busby Babes, but when it comes to Jimmy Murphy, I think the guys here are right in terms of what they're saying, and I can say as well that you know, not a lot of people talks about what he done after that and everything he done on the years till he died at Manchester United Football Club. This must be incredible for you to be able to sit down and hear fans talking about your Grandad the way they are, but also to be able to share the stories of his memory and reflect it onto the current day as well.
Ben, it's truly amazing, and really, you've lost for words. It was only on Saturday, a lad from Australia in Brisbane, 33-year-old kid from Brisbane, had a tattoo of my Grandad on his leg. And I was like, but and it just beggars belief, but it's just the sense of pride, and it is mind blowing. And like I say, Molly's campaigned for years, and with Pat now and the MMF and other organisations, it just really humbling, really humbling. And you for letting me on the show and everything, it truly is humbling. There's not enough words I could say to these people, really.
I'm extremely honoured to have been able to host this for you guys. Thank you so much for taking out your time to talk about Jimmy Murphy and enlightening us all about his story. And if we could do this again, I'd jump it. Hopefully we'll see you guys at Old Trafford around a pub table very, very soon. And we need that. God, there's pints all around, I tell you. But before we go, Pat, can you tell us a little bit about where people maybe can jump online and have a look at what you guys at MMF are doing?
Of course, yeah. So you can find our website, www.mmmf.co.uk, or on Twitter @the/MMMF, or find me, Patrick Burns. Listen, we're just diehard Reds. That's all we are. We're a vehicle. The MMMF, that's what it's all about. We're just the people who are looking to do something to make sure that as you guys come through, younger generations, the memory of the babes is not lost. So we do charitable work in Manchester, in Munich, and in Belgrade to make sure that those boys, and by those boys I include Sir Matt, I include Harry Gregg, and I include Jimmy Murphy, and I always do whenever I'm speaking. And we'll finish tonight by saying, God bless the babes, Sir Matt, Harry Gregg and Jimmy Murphy and Manchester United FC. They will never be forgotten for us, because we would not be the football club we are today without those people, and predominantly without Jimmy Murphy. And I know people I've been going 50 years, and there are people who, I'm just a young spring chicken to some of them. Everybody knows it's Jimmy Murphy who kept us going in our darkest years. We're so proud to have his grandson on our committee. Paul's dad is one of the patrons of our foundation. Harry Gregg's daughter's another patron. And the people that we work with, they're all like-minded. And if we get some form of recognition for this great man, whether it be a stand or a statue or a street name or whatever the club decide, we've made it quite clear that it's the family that's got to be content with what happens. People, please don't forget there are families behind these great people, and they must be happy. And if the family turn around and say, yeah, we would love that, Manchester United, we would love that, I would not expect any Manchester United fan to have anything else to say apart from, thank God Jimmy's family have finally got the recognition they so rightly deserve at Old Trafford for him. And I will say good night to you all.
Fantastic. Pat, Molly, Paul, I hope we can do this again sometime. Thank you guys so much. And I think I'll end on saying, long live Jimmy Murphy. And if there's anything we can do to support these guys in making this happen, drop a like on the video, get in the comments, go and find out more about Jimmy, go and find out more about MMF as well and see what you can do. And from there on here, I'm going to say goodbye and make sure you hit subscribe. Take care, guys. Have a good evening.
God bless.
Thanks, Ben. Cheers.
Cheers, Ben.